The link between endless giving and self-hatred. There's a particular kind of person who will drop everything at 1 a.m. to help a friend through a crisis, then spend the rest of the night convinced something is fundamentally wrong with them. They give to others without limit, yet look at themselves and find nothing worth valuing. This isn't a coincidence. The generosity and the self-contempt aren't two separate things happening in the same person. They're the same mechanism, just wearing different faces. Here's what's actually going on. Children raised in environments where love felt conditional, where warmth depended on behavior, achievement, or the mood of the adults around them, learn early that love is something you earn. And the most reliable way to earn it is to make yourself useful. To be the one who gives, because giving feels far safer than needing. Over time, that rewires what care looks like in your nervous system. Giving stops being a choice and becomes something closer to compulsion. It's less, I want to help you, and more, I don't know how to exist in a relationship without serving a function. From the outside, it looks like selflessness. From the inside, it often feels like running. Psychologists call the underlying belief system a negative self-schema. A deeply held framework in which the self is seen as fundamentally flawed or undeserving. Interestingly, this doesn't reduce warmth toward others. In many cases it amplifies it, because if you believe you aren't worthy of good things, making other people's lives better becomes the only socially acceptable way to feel like you matter. So you become the emotional infrastructure of everyone around you. The one who remembers birthdays, checks in, notices when someone's off. And you're genuinely good at it. The problem is what's happening underneath. Every act of kindness is quietly being tallied as evidence of your worth, and when it goes unnoticed or unreciprocated, the ledger tips back toward that familiar feeling of worthlessness. Research by Laura Aknin and colleagues in 2013 found that giving to others is linked to greater well-being across cultures, and that's real. But what almost never gets discussed is the motivation behind the giving. Giving from a place of security feels fundamentally different in the body than giving from scarcity. One is an open hand. The other is closer to a transaction you entered into hoping no one would notice how desperate you were. People who quietly hate themselves also tend to be exceptional listeners, and it's worth understanding why. Someone who has spent years believing their inner world isn't worth attention becomes extraordinarily attuned to everyone else's. Reading a room, sensing mood shifts, anticipating needs before they're spoken, these are survival skills that got dressed up as emotional intelligence. They are genuine, but they developed in the context of having to manage other people's emotions just to feel safe. The self-hatred rarely announces itself directly. Instead, it shows up as an inability to accept compliments, a strange discomfort when someone does something for you, a quiet suspicion that if people saw the real you, not the helpful, giving, present version, they'd leave. And so the giving continues, because usefulness feels like the only reliable reason for people to stay. What makes this particularly complicated is that many people living this way don't realize it's self-hatred, because it doesn't feel like self-hatred. It feels like being realistic. It feels like humility. The internal story isn't I hate myself, it's I'm just not that special, or I'm harder to love than most, or I'd rather focus on other people, my own stuff is boring. And the culture around them constantly reinforces this, celebrating selflessness, calling it noble, rewarding the behavior with exactly the words that person most needs to hear and least knows what to do with. One question tends to cut through all of this: when do you feel most deserving of love? People who struggle with self-worth almost always answer the same way: when they've done something helpful, when they've fixed something, when they've been useful. Almost never simply because they exist. That distinction is everything. There's also a particular kind of grief that lives in these people and rarely gets named. It's the grief of having been an adult trapped in a child's body, carrying emotional weight that was never theirs to carry, suppressing their own needs so completely that by the time they reach adulthood, they genuinely can't locate what they want anymore. Ask them what they need and they'll deflect. Push a little and you'll sometimes see something that looks like panic, because needing something opens a door, and the last time that door was open, it didn't go well. To be clear, this isn't a claim that people who are kind and struggling internally are broken or purely dysfunctional. People are far more layered than any single narrative allows. Someone can give from a wounded place and a genuine place at the same time. The warmth is real. The love is real. What's also real is that they deserve to extend that same quality of care toward themselves, not as a goal to achieve or something to earn, but simply because they're a person. The shift, when it comes, tends to be slow and non-linear and sometimes uncomfortable in unexpected ways. Because when someone who has built their entire identity around being the giver starts allowing themselves to receive, starts allowing themselves to need, it can feel wrong. Selfish. Like losing a version of themselves that, even if painful, was at least familiar. Recovery from self-hatred doesn't look like waking up one day and loving yourself. It tends to look like a long, ongoing argument with yourself, where slowly and incrementally, the voice telling you that you don't deserve good things starts to lose ground. If you recognized yourself in any of this, not in a vague, general way, but in a way that felt uncomfortably specific, that recognition matters. Most people spend their whole lives running from this pattern without ever seeing it as a pattern. The fact that you can see it, even partially, even with discomfort, is the beginning of something different. You don't have to earn your place in your own story. You were already in it.